doing? For those of you who do not know me, my name is Meghma and I am an ego alchemy coach. I help people who are going through their spiritual awakening to navigate and understand their ascension and transformation, and help them to really find their way to align themselves to their soul's true essence. In this video, let us try to understand what exactly is ego and what is our relationship with it. If you wish to walk the path of spirituality and build a relationship with your inner child, your higher self, to align yourself to your true essence and soul's purpose, I really want you to watch this video. And especially if you have heard and believed things like ego is bad, ego chases material objects, ego is what separating me with my spiritual nature. Children have no ego, and the more ego we have, the less spiritual we are. Now, all the things that I just said are kind of true. When our ego has been programmed, traumatized, kept in survival mode for years and years, told that we have to be in a certain way to be loved, to be accepted, to be spiritual, then that ego, yes, may be sabotaging you in walking this life in a spiritual manner, in inculcating and practicing spirituality. But if you are trying to cut off yourself and separate yourself with whatever you label as your ego, then you are not helping the cause either. And this is a tug of war, a push and pull, where we often get caught up and can enter this unnecessary fight with ourselves that actually aggravates our suffering and pain and do not necessarily bring us closer to our soul and our spirituality. Now, what is this ego? Our ego is our sense of identity. If I ask you who you are, what do you do? What do you identify with? Whatever answers that you will give to these questions is cumulatively what forms your ego. You say, I'm a student, or I'm a mother, I'm a daughter, I'm a doctor, I'm a social worker, I'm a lawyer. And any other roles and description and characteristics, personalities you can attach to it becomes your ego. Now, the reason we think, and it is true, that children have less of these layers and these external identities that they associate to, because most of the time a little child feels more comfortable to be themselves, to express their soul signature without having to assume a layer of mask or identities to have them feel accepted, belonged, and cared for, and to be treated as a part of their tribe. But as we grow up, we start seeing ourselves, perceiving ourselves through the eyes and lens of the people around us. It starts with our parents, our siblings, our friends, our boyfriends, girlfriends, bosses, teachers, the society, religious affiliations, political affiliations to our countries and cultures, all that. We start seeing ourselves, our identities, who we are here to be, through those lenses. And we start to form a list of do's and don'ts according to those external perception, like do this and don't do this. If you want to be accepted by these people, if you wanted to be treated and respected and loved by these external people and institutions and authorities. So as we grow up, and when from a child, when we were more in touch with our soul's blueprint because we're not wearing a mask. Now this child is growing up and is worried about his survival, of his belonging, of his feel good in this world, and learns that you have to suppress some of this expression and favor some accepted expression to be accepted and loved in this society and this world that we were born into. So we start to pile up and create these layers and layers of identities to protect us from this very harsh, critical world that we find ourselves in it. So this ego that you may be trying to separate yourself from, you are trying to disidentify from and really cut your any connection to it, this ego that you're trying so hard to leave behind, is your own creation, is a part of you. So here is what I suggest you do. Instead of trying to dissociate with all the identities that you have created over the years to protect yourself, to protect your innocence and purity, and maybe that layer became so thick that now it is impossible for you to reach what's inside, safely hidden and covered inside those layers that you have created. You started observing yourself from an external point of view, and you saw that inside you, in your core, was an innocent, pure child of light. And this world is too much for this little angel that lives within you. So in order to protect yourself, you built this narrative, these stories, these identities around that child to keep it protected from the outside world and to some extent even from you. And now you're outside and you cannot reach your inner child, that pure light of joy and love that beats inside you, that throbs inside you, resulting in both of you and your inner light to be in pain, to feel lonely, to feel unseen and suffering. And maybe that is why you are on this path to understand and express your spiritual nature, to bridge that gap, to tear that wall down between you and your inner child, and embrace that divinity, that pure light that you are and you have been hiding from the world by creating all these layers and narratives of ego. Instead of trying to destroy, dissociate, and disappear, or vanish this creation, these layers of identity that you have created to protect yourself, I invite you to drop inside your narratives, feel what thoughts, beliefs, and programming got infested in your system, in your brain, in your belief systems that caused you to create all these narratives and identities. Our ego is a complex being. It's a complex structure with layers, with little nuances, and it is not possible to uncover it and understand entirety of it in one go. But let me tell you this, our ego is not our enemy. It's our greatest friend on the path to knowing ourselves, to returning ourselves. Our ego knows our deepest fears and the wildest dreams we have. Because our ego thinks that if he or she is what he or she thinks is right now, then they will be able to get what they really want, and they will be able to protect themselves from what they really, really fear. Let me give you an example. Say you see a friend buying a new house, and this house is beautiful. And you go and she invites he or she invites you to come and visit. Maybe she throws a big grand party because she is celebrating her new success, her new beginning in her life, in a new phase. And you go there and she is your dear friend, but you can feel this bubbling jealousy inside you, like you're jealous. 90% of the time, what you will try to do is shove down that jealousy as bad. You will label it as an evil, ugly, unholy emotion and thoughts and feelings to have, and then you will shove it out. You will try to dissociate with it because that's not spiritual, that's just unholy. But what happens if for a second you do not judge that emotion or thoughts that's coming and really try to understand it? You say, my ego is jealous right now. The ego that is, the shade of my ego that is jealous, this green and jealousy is coming up at this point. What is it actually trying to tell me? It's a simple answer, isn't it? It's telling you that deep down you want the same things that your friend has recently acquired, but also you believe, but for some reason and misfortunes and stuff, you won't be able to achieve the same. So you resort to being bitter and jealous about it. That's it. Understand where that ugly emotion is coming from, and then try to come back to the present. Say to your friend, you know what, this is a great house, so much so that I'm honestly jealous, and it made me realize, oh God, I want a good house, lovely house as yours for myself one day. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing unholy or negative about seeing something and wanting that. As long as you're in a body, you're not going to separate yourself from your desires. But how you perceive your desires and how you interact with them, how you channel them into actions is a whole other ball game. Then go home and try to understand, why was I jealous? Why wasn't I excited? Why do I think that even though I want this future, this material stuff, why do I think I'm not worthy of it, or I will not be able to manifest it into my life? That's an example of how you can begin to understand yourself, your ego, your identities, your beliefs, narratives, and stories, and get in to do the real work. And slowly start to erode those layers of metal, of lead that you have created around your soul and your heart space. I hope this video helped you to really wrap your head around what really ego is, and sometimes how we have just labeled it and demonized it and blamed it for all of our problems, whereas the ego is just trying to provide and protect us in the best way that he or she knows. And this he or she, this ego, is just our identity, how we talk about ourselves, how we describe ourselves. You say, I'm not a risk taker, I play it safe. That's your ego. But is that ego holding you back? When did you start thinking that it's not worth taking risks? Or maybe you were a huge risk taker. When did you learn that it's not okay to take it easy sometimes, go with the flow a little, hold back a little sometimes? Thank you so much for coming and joining in my space and listening to me and discussing what really ego is and what kind of relationship we should be having with our ego. If you enjoyed this video, please let me know in the comments, like, subscribe and share, you know the drill. But do let me know what else you want to hear about. I'm really looking forward to know and hear from you guys. You can also follow me on Instagram, where I post daily on spiritual awakening and ascension. And yeah, see you around. Have a great day, have a great week, a month, a year, and a life. I love you. Happy awakening, happy expansion. Bye bye. Take care. This life is about all sorts of flavors and experiences, and opening us up, expanding our consciousness and ourselves and who we are.